Did you know that Pandora has always been a world defined by the color blue? It is a world of bioluminescence, of deep oceans, and of a lush, cool canopy that feels like a cradle for life itself. 4-2 Films. James Cameron has sold us on a dream. The dream of a perfect interconnected ecosystem where every living thing is a node in a singular, glowing network called Eywa. We have spent nearly 6 hours of cinema watching the Gnostics defend this dream against an external virus. The humans. We viewed the RDA as the fire and the Gnostics as the forest. It was a clean, binary conflict. But Avatar, Fire and Ash is about to tell us that our understanding of Pandora was naive. It's about to prove that the greatest threat to a system isn't always an outside invader. Sometimes, the system itself begins to rot from the inside out. The title isn't just a cool-sounding phrase. It represents a fundamental shift in the CineLogic of the franchise. If the first film was about the spirit and the second was about the body, the third is about the mind, and specifically, how a mind fractures when it is forced to choose between tradition and survival. Fire is the ultimate taboo on Pandora. In a world where every tree is a memory bank and every creature is a sibling, fire is a great destroyer. It is the one element the Gnostics have never been allowed to master. But as we move into the volcanic waste of Pandora, we are going to meet the people who stop being afraid of the flame. We're going to meet the Ash people, and in doing so, we're going to see the Gnostics' culture split in half. This isn't just a war movie. It's an ideological autopsy. Today, we are going through every major clan involved in this upcoming conflict, explaining the logic of their existence, and unraveling how the introduction of fire turns a way of water into a path of destruction. The Omaticaya clan. We have to begin with the Omaticaya, because they are the baseline for everything we consider Gnostics. Their logic is vertical. They live in the trees, they reach for the sky, and they are defined by their proximity to the home tree and the tree of souls. To the Omaticaya, life is a delicate balance of debt. You take a life, you give a prayer. You use a branch, you thank the tree. This is a zero-sum spiritual economy. It works perfectly as long as the world stays the same. But the Omaticaya are currently facing an evolutionary dead end. Under the leadership of Jake Sully, they have become a warrior culture, yet they still cling to the pacifist spirit of Eywa. This creates a massive internal friction. In Fire and Ash, the Omaticaya represent the old guard. They are the traditionalists who believe that fire is a human sickness. Their logic is that any Gnostics who uses fire has lost their way. But as the RDA continues to burn the forest, the Omaticaya's refusal to adapt becomes their greatest weakness. They are fighting a 21st century industrial war with Bronze Age philosophies. In the upcoming script, expect to see the Omaticaya struggling with the realization that their purity might be the very thing that leads to their extinction. They are the heart of Pandora. But as any doctor will tell you, the heart is the most vulnerable organ when the body starts to burn. The Metkayina clan. When we moved the reefs in the previous film, we saw a different kind of logic, the way of water. The Metkayina, led by Ronald and Tanawari, are defined by fluidity. Their bodies have evolved for the ocean, their tails are broad, and their skin is a different shade of teal. They are the pragmatists of Pandora. Unlike the Omaticaya, who are intensely focused on the spiritual songs, the Metkayina are focused on the flow. Their logic is that life is a cycle of tides. What goes out must come in. This makes them more grounded and, frankly, more stubborn. In the era of Fire and Ash, the Metkayina face a different kind of threat. Fire doesn't just burn trees, it boils water. The introduction of the Ash people threatens the very boundaries of the reef. If the volcanic clans begin to expand their territory, the Metkayina's logic of flow is tested. Do they absorb the newcomers, or do they build a wall? We've already seen that Ronald is fiercely protective of her people's purity. She didn't even want the half-breed, sullied children in her village. When the Ash people arrive, Gnostics who have intentionally severed their connection to the traditional ways, the Metkayina will likely be the first to call for a holy war. Their logic isn't based on forest spirituality. It's based on territorial integrity. They are the middle class of Pandora, and they have the most to lose if the social order collapses. The Mangkwan clan. Now, we must look into the smoke. The Ash people, or the Mangkwan, are the central CineLogic pivot of this entire story. They live in the volcanic regions of Pandora, a place where the bioluminescence is choked out by soot and the air is thick with sulfur. In any other Avatar story, these would be the villains. But James Cameron doesn't do villains in the traditional sense. He does competing interests. The logic of the Ash people is born from resentment. While the Omaticaya were given the lush forests and the Metkayina were given the bountiful seas, the Ash people were left with the scraps. They live in a place where Eywa's voice is quiet. When you live in a wasteland, balance is a luxury you cannot afford. Survival is the only law. The Ash people looked at the fire and realized that it is a tool of liberation. By mastering fire, they no longer have to depend on the whims of a forest that doesn't feed them. This is the first time we see Nasik's industry. They aren't just hunters, they are smiths. They are tool makers. They represent the humanization of the Nasiks. Their leader, Varong, is described as a powerful, vengeful figure, but her logic is likely rooted in a desire for her people to finally have a seat at the table. To her, Jake Sully isn't a hero. He's a hypocrite who brings human war to a world he claims to love. The Ash people are the proletariat of Pandora, rising up to burn the old gods so they can finally build something for themselves. This is a terrifying shift because it proves that the RDA didn't bring destruction to Pandora. They just brought the idea, and the Ash people were the ones who realized it worked. The Tawkami and Tipani clan. To understand the full scope of the conflict, we have to look at the fringe clans that serve as the specialists of the Nasik's world. First, there are the Tawkami. They are the scientists, the chemists, and the record keepers of the forest. Their logic is built on the chemical complexity of Pandora. They don't just see the forest, they understand its molecular bonds. In fire and ash, the Tawkami are essential because they're the only ones who can logically counter the industrial power of the Ash people. If Varang's clan is using volcanic heat to forge weapons, the Tawkami are the ones who will develop biological countermeasures. They represent the intellect of the planet. They are the bridge between the spiritual and the physical, and their logic suggests that Eywa isn't just a goddess, she is a biological supercomputer. On the other side of the spectrum, we have the Tipani. These are the warriors of the old world. While the Omaticaya are hunters who learn to fight, the Tipani were born for it. They are the only clan known to wear actual armor, made from the carapaces of creatures. Their logic is based on the trial by fire. They value strength, discipline, and tactical superiority. In the upcoming civil war, the Tipani are the wild cards. They don't care about forest politics or reef traditions. They care about who is the strongest. If the Ash people can prove that fire is a superior weapon, the Tipani might just flip the script and join them. They represent the military of Pandora. And as we know from our own history, the military usually goes where the power is. The Anurai and Terangi clan. Then we have the tragic clans, like the Anurai and the Terangi. The Anurai were masters of stingbat and great artisans, but they were almost wiped out by human greed. Their logic is the logic of the loss. They represent the cultural memory of what happens when you lose your home. In fire and ash, the survivors of these broken clans will likely be the ones who have to choose between the peaceful path of Jake Sully or the vengeful path of Varong. The Terangi, meanwhile, are the masters of the sky who live on the eastern cliffs. Their logic is based on perspective. From the sky, the borders between the forest and the volcano don't look so clear. They see the whole picture. In the logic of the film, the Sky Clan serve as the watchmen. But as the smoke from the Ash people's fires begins to choke the atmosphere, the Sky Clans will find themselves grounded. When you can no longer see the horizon because of the ash, your perspective narrows. This is a brilliant metaphor for film. As the conflict heats up, the characters lose the ability to see the big picture and become obsessed with their own survival. What does all of this mean for the story of Jake Sully and Neytiri? For 2 movies, Jake has tried to be the Torek Makto, the unifier of the clans. But that title only works when there is a common enemy. When the enemy is another Gnostic, someone who breathes the same air and calls upon the same ancestors, the title of Toruk Makto becomes meaningless. You cannot unify a people who are fundamentally disagreeing on what it means to be alive. The fire in the title represents a friction of these competing logics. The ash represents what is left after conflict is over. James Cameron is showing us that the blue dream of Pandora is dead. The planet is growing up. It is entering its industrial age, its political age, and its age of civil war. The logic of the system is breaking down because the system has become too complex for a single great mother to manage. By the end of this script, we are going to be looking at a unified Gnostic front. We're going to be looking at a world that is scarred, divided, and deeply human in its flaws. This is the brilliance of the Avatar series. It's not about blue aliens. It's about us. It's about how we handle the fire of progress and the ash of our mistakes. Whether the Gnostics can find a new balance, a balance that includes a fire without letting it consume the forest, is the ultimate question of the franchise. But if the CineLogic holds true, the path to that balance is going to be paved with the very things the Gnostics fear the most. This shift in Pandora's hierarchy is exactly why we need to keep our eyes on every frame James Cameron gives us. The lore is expanding from a simple nature documentary into a complex political thriller, and the clans are the chess pieces on the board. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the shifting logic of the Avatar universe and the dark future of the Gnostics clans, there's plenty more where this came from. We're going to be covering every update, every trailer, and every piece of lore as we lead up to the release of Fire and Ash. To make sure you don't miss our next breakdown on the RDA's new technologies or the hidden history of the volcanic waste, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell notifications. We're building a community of thinkers here who look past the CGI to see the systems beneath. Join the tribe. Leave a comment with which clan you think will ultimately win the war for Pandora's soul. And as always, stay sharp, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next one.